let's make this log cabin block together. You will notice that the fabrics are all from the online store. And then the square here is from Autumn Friends, which is a brand new collection from Free Spirit. Each of the squares I cut out using scissors, and then the rest of the strips to make the log cabin block are made out of 2.5-inch strips. So to get the pattern, you'll have to download the sewing guide. Let's go ahead and start sewing one of the quilt blocks, and then when you sew multiple blocks together, that's how we will create a table topper, or go ahead and get so crazy and you could create an entire quilt using these amazing and sweet whimsical animals. Let's go ahead and sew the log cabin quilt block now. So here is the entire panel here. You will notice that there is a fox and a hedgehog, deer, squirrel, and then each of the critters do repeat itself. And again, what I did was I just used my fabric scissors and I very carefully cut out along the line. And then that is what created my center block for the log cabin block. So cutting out each of the squares is what has turned into my log cabin block here. And then for the rest of the strips, of course, getting that sewing guide so that you know exactly how and what to cut out for your strips. If we haven't met before, hi, I am Emily from Norton House Quilting and the founder of Quilting Your Legacy. And together we are going to quilt your legacy for not only projects for you to enjoy, but also projects for your favorite people, because quilting your legacy is legendary. Let's go ahead and start sewing by taking our animal block, and then we are going to take our first strip and sew it right to the side. Let's go. Okay, so here is my first animal here. We are always going to be sewing on our left hand side. So this is my left hand side. So first we're going to take our first strip and sew it right on to our left hand side. I usually use my fingernails to be able to get the fabric right where I want it to be. Then we are going to sew 1/4 inch going all the way down the strip. There we go. After we sew our strip on, we are going to press our block. So when we go to press, we are going to press away from the center block. So our seam is going to go towards the left again. Here is my block right here. And then we are just taking our seams, keeping them pressed like that so that our seams go away from our center block. Let's go ahead and take our iron. Typically, the weight of the iron will press the seam nice and flat. There we go. So again, our seam is now pressed away from our center. Let's get back to sewing our strip because our next strip will go right on the bottom. Okay, so now we're gonna go ahead and sew our bottom strip on. I am going to pin it. And again, 1/4 inch going all the way down. So after we have that sewn, we are again going to press our seams. The seam is at the bottom, so again, we are pressing it down so that our seam is going away from our center. We've got our block here. We'll flip it right on the back side, and again, it's just gonna go this way, so it's away from our center. And the weight of the iron is really what's pushing down on it. Look how sweet that is starting to come. Okay, let's go ahead and keep sewing. So next we are going to add our next strip onto the left-hand side. So we are going to take our pink. We're going to flip this over so that our fabrics are right sides together. And you will notice that there is a pattern. So we're going to sew on the left. We are then going to sew on the bottom. And then we are going to sew on the left again. Again, right sides together for our strips, and we are going to sew 1/4 inch going all the way down. After we have this sewn, let's go ahead and press our seams again. We are just going to flatten this out like this because we want our seams to go away from our center block. So just using the weight of the iron. I am not pressing down. I'm just using the iron to just go down. Okay. Oh, I love this. Okay, so next we are going to sew our bottom strip again. And then as we grab our bottom strip, we are placing our fabrics right sides together. I am a super pinner, so I do typically pin quite a bit. Typically right on the seams. Go ahead and sew again, right sides together. 1/4 inch, away we go. Okay, so now that we have our bottom strip sewn on, we are going to press again. Again, we are pressing our seams so that they go down. So just a quick little finger press, if you will, going all the way down, and away we go with the iron. Giving that a nice glide. Okay, so now that we have our block again, we are going to sew our next strip again right to the left. So this time we are using the golden color. So again, I am going to just give it a quick little pin. And then again, right on the seam. And away we sew. There we go. So now that we have our first left strip sewn on for gold, we are going to press our seams again. And again, the exact same way. I'm sure you're noticing a pattern at this point. We are pressing our seams going away from the center. And then with our first seam with the golden on the left, we are next going to sew the golden strip on the bottom. Go ahead and sew our golden strip at the bottom. Just do a little bit of pinning to ensure that when we sew, our strip doesn't shift and go anywhere else, especially where it is not supposed to go. Okay, now that we have the bottom sewn on, let's go ahead and press our seams yet again. Got our block really starting to form now. I've got it on the back so that I can see my seams, giving it a nice hot, steamy press. I am loving the way that these colors look. Okay, so now that we have our third strip sewn on, let's go ahead and add our fourth by sewing it onto the left-hand side again. And then with our next strip, we are making sure that our fabrics are right sides together, placing our pins and then placing another pin right along the seam. There we go. Let's go ahead and sew right sides together all the way down. Okay, so now that we have our first left strip sewn on of the mauve color flowers, let's go ahead and press our seams again. With the pressing of the seam, we are going away from the center block per usual. This is looking so stinking cute. So let's go ahead and add our mauve at the bottom of the block. Fabric block back on. We've got our mauve color with the flowers. We are sewing that right at the bottom of the block. And I am going to pin it right on the seam. There we go. And then I'm just going to do one more pin. And away we sew. Okay, so now that we have that sewn, let's go ahead and press our seams yet again. Our block is getting larger and larger. We have one more strip to sew. Again, I am pressing all of my seams away from the center. This is so cute. So let's go ahead and add our final strip. As we add our final strip onto our block, we are taking our brown strip and we are sewing it to the left hand side first. Then after we sew it to the left hand side, then that's where we will sew it to the bottom after we press our seams. Let's go ahead and sew our 1/4 inch. So now that we have our seam sewn on, we are going to do another pressing, second to last pressing. So this is our last time sewing our strip onto the left-hand side. And next we are going to sew our final strip onto the bottom of the block. Let's go ahead and sew our final strip on. Got our block here. Here is my final. Fabric is right sides together and we are going to sew our 1/4 inch. After we get the seam sewn on, the block will be complete. Okay, let's go ahead and press one more time. Again, we are going to be pressing our seams going away from the center, using that heat of the iron. Okay, so now that our block is complete, we are going to do this step as many times as you would like to. You can either turn it into a table topper or you can turn it into a quilt. Happy quilting your legacy.